important issues of privilege, etc. But from our perspective, representing Ms. Heard, we have issues with this witness separately, and I want to make them very clear for the record. This is somebody who should have been identified in discovery, was never. Second of all, it's not relevant whether apparently what they're saying he's going to testify, and we have not had the opportunity to discover that, is he's going to claim that someone leaked to TMZ that Ms. Heard was going to obtain the TRO on that Friday and also leak the video, the kitchen video with Mr. Depp being rather violent. I'm almost certain he's not going to claim it's Ms. Heard, so I think it's never going to come in.
Right. Mr. Hoff, I understand all that argument. Do you have any argument as to this particular motion?
No,
okay, well, then we can address your...
My point is, though, if you balance the prejudice versus the probative value, I don't even see how he can come in on foundation or hearsay or relevant.
That's just not part of this motion at this time.
This case is actually a very good case to answer Your Honor's question about the intervention of somebody else in order to assert the privilege. ABC was a defendant in the case, and it moved in order to prevent other people, the phone company.
Right. But they were already in the case in that particular
I understand.
matter.
There is no other mechanism, though, and so it would be an interesting procedural issue for appeal, Your Honor, whether a journalism organization or anybody else who's a First Amendment holder would be denied intervention on a constitutional-based privilege.
Under Virginia Rule Supreme Court 3:14, a new party may intervene as a plaintiff or defendant to assert any claim or defense germane to the subject matter of the proceeding. A new party may not intervene unless they assert some right involved in the underlying litigation. A party is not entitled to intervene merely because a byproduct of the litigation adversely impacts them, and the decision to allow intervention is within the broad discretion of the trial court. Here, the rights asserted are not germane to the trial. The central issues in this case are whether defendant defamed plaintiff and whether plaintiff defamed defendant through a theory of vicarious liability. The issue of the confidentiality of sources has not come up as in other cases cited by EHM, which is the corporation that TMZ belongs to, is under their umbrella. In Brown versus the Commonwealth, there was an attempt by the criminal defendant to subpoena institutions in order to obtain the name of the confidential source. When the author of the article was subpoenaed, she refused to identify her confidential source on the stand. And in this case, it appears that the witness is willing to state the name of the confidential source without being compelled voluntarily. Whether that breaches a non-disclosure agreement between Mr. Tremaine and EHM is not germane to this matter and can be litigated in a separate matter if EHM so chooses. And while breaches of contract must be taken seriously, and the court does, any alleged breach is not germane to the underlying litigation here. That contractual action has no bearing on this case and is thus not germane to this litigation. Therefore, I'll deny the non-party EHM Productions motion to intervene.
I am concerned that we preserve the issue fully. And so,
for the record, yes.
For the record. And so I would ask, may I have the opportunity to object when Mr. Tremaine is questioned by question?
No, sir, you're not a party to this case. However, I will note for your record your objection to his complete testimony on behalf of your client.
Right. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
As with the Hicksville witness, Your Honor, I would ask that we could voir dire him before the jury to find out when he contacted counsel and when they became aware of it. And I think also, under the circumstances, in fairness, I think we should at least be able to ask him what he's going to claim.
That's appropriate. Certainly, I don't think a proffer is necessary or appropriate in this case.
I'm not going to do a proffer in this matter, okay? All right.
I know, I'm so sorry. But I truly am the messenger here, because Mr. Murphy just informed me that he has to just clarify one thing about...
one clarification.
Okay, all right, okay.
I apologize.
That's fine. I think we need Ms. Myers.
And what story was that?
On the 12th, we received a video depicting Johnny Depp slamming some cabinets that was captured by Ms. Heard.
And what day was that?
I believe that was the August 12th.
Of 2016?
Of 2016, yes.
Can you describe to the jury how you received the video on August 12, 2016?
Yes, the video was sent in through our email tip line, which is an email distribution that goes to all the producers and to myself as the field assignment manager because it often included celebrity locations. It came in as I recall,
Objection, hearsay.
He's just describing how it came in.
I think he's about to reveal hearsay, Your Honor.
I'll overrule for now. We'll see where it goes.
Please continue.
So I received that email and it included a link from some unknown Dropbox type public website in which it contained that
Objection, Your
video.
Honor, hearsay. He's about to describe what comes from the Dropbox website, and that's.
So far, he just said he's was a link from a Dropbox. We'll see the next question. Go ahead, next question.
So you received a link. What was in that link?
In that link was the video of Johnny Depp smashing the cabinets.
What did you do once you received that video?
We downloaded it. We alerted the web editor who was sitting next to me at the time. We downloaded it and then were instructed by the news producer to do what we call slap bumpers and a bug on it, which is putting the dun 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 at the beginning end, and then putting a translucent watermark over it, which indicates copyright ownership.
Did you do anything else related to Amber Heard on August 12, 2016?
Yes, I received a tip that Amber Heard would be arriving at LAX, and so I dispatched camera people to film that exit, or her arrival to LAX rather.
And why did you do that?
I was instructed to.
How long does it take to post a story after media's been received by TMZ?
After media's been received, it could take any length of time depending on who owns the copyright.
How does TMZ obtain copyright over images and videos?
The only way to obtain copyright over media would be if we shot it ourselves, if it was sent to the tip line, source verified that it was from the original copyright owner, and then either purchased from that person or given to us. And then the third option would be if it was directly given to us by the copyright holder, like a direct source.
And how long does it take to copyright something TMZ has received through the tip line?
It can take a while because you have to extensively verify that that person owns the copyright. And then possibly, it depends also if you can even get in contact with the person because they might not be super responsive immediately via phone or email that they provided. And then potentially you'd have to enter a negotiation with our clips and clearances department to figure out the cost of that media.
How much time had passed from the time you received the kitchen cabinet video to the time it was posted on TMZ?
About 15 minutes.
Did any other tabloids other than TMZ post this video?
Objection,
No, they-
leading and calls for hearsay.
Did any other tabloids?
Overrule.
Mr. Tremaine, go ahead.
No, they did not.
And why not?
Because it was a TMZ exclusive.
And what does that mean?
It means that TMZ owns the copyright to it. So it can't be distributed by any other media source without backlinking to TMZ, and they wouldn't be able to upload that media without getting a copyright strike. When I had clicked the direct link that we received and watched the video in its entirety, it was much shorter than the video we had received, than the video that's been played in this trial. There was a bit at the beginning that was played here in which Ms. Heard is seemingly sort of sitting at the camera and getting into position. And then there's a bit at the end where she's seemingly snickering and looks at the camera. That part was not present in what we received.
Did TMZ edit the video?
No, not even a little. When we receive something and it's edited, there's a clear indicator because there's sort of a journalistic practice that uses when there's an edit, you do what's called like a white flash transition, which covers the entire screen with white to very clearly indicate to everybody there was an edit here for time or whatever, just to make it a little more compelling. But in this case, it was not edited, as I was staring at the machine that edited it and present for the entirety of receipt to publishing. It was, well, there was the time where we went to the airport. And then the day after that, because she had flown in for the deposition, because I think the first time didn't work out. So she was arriving again for the deposition in that same parking lot adjacent to a law office.
And what's that, August 13th, 2016?
That was August 13th, yeah.
And what was your assignment on August 13th, 2016?
To dispatch camera people to that parking lot at a specific time in order to film Amber Heard arriving for the deposition.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
Yes. So, how do you know what video was shown at this trial?
I was alerted by a friend that TMZ was being kind of talked about in this trial, and so I had seen a clip of that.
So you watched some of this trial?
Correct.
Okay. When did you first reach out to counsel for Mr. Depp?
I believe that was 6 days ago, whatever that date would be. I'd have to do that.
All right. And then you received a subpoena, I think yesterday, in care of your attorney, Cindy Hickox, right?
Correct.
Okay. And Cindy Hickox represents Christy Dombrowski, Kate James, Robin Baum. and
Objection,
Debbie
Your
Ward.
Honor.
Were you aware
Calls
of
for
that?
speculation.
Overruled.
Were you aware of that?
No.
Now, if you don't have information that's helpful to this case, then you wouldn't be a witness, correct?
Objection. Calls for
can't.
speculation.
Sustained. Sustained. Next question.
I'm not aware.
Okay. You know this case is being televised, right?
I am aware that there are cameras.
And so this gets you your 15 minutes of fame, doesn't
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative.
it? I can ask that question.
Overruled.
So I stand to gain nothing from this. I'm actually putting myself kind of in the target of TMZ, a very litigious organization, and I'm not seeking any 15 minutes here. Though you're welcome to speculate. I could say the same thing by taking Amber Heard as a client for you.
A little argumentative, don't you think?
Oh, hardly. I find that to be purely logical. Thank you.
Now, are you aware that Mr. Depp's attorneys were well aware of the TRO that was going to be presented on May 27th?
Objection. Calls for speculation.
Were you aware of that?
Lack of foundation.
Overruled if you can answer it.
Can you restate the question?
Were you aware that Mr. Depp's divorce attorneys were aware that Amber Heard was going in to seek a TRO on May 27th?
I don't think I understand the question, but I don't think so, no.
Okay. Do
Kind of
you
complicated
know whether Blair Burke, one of Mr. Depp's divorce attorneys, had a very close relationship with TMZ at that time?
Objection. Calls for speculation.
Overruled. If he knows.
I was not aware of that.
Okay. And when you said that you were dispatched twice, once to film Amber in a parking lot for the deposition, and then it didn't work out, and so you had to do it another time, how did you know it didn't work out?
Because TMZ.com posted an article saying as much.
Okay.
And
Do you
I was
know-
not dispatched.
Do you
I
know
worked in the
why the deposition did not work out?
I'd have to reference the article, I forget.
So do you know?
I didn't write that story. I wasn't involved in the
Do
actual
you know
journalism of that.
which side? Do you know which side would have known or not known whether that deposition was going to work out? In other words, the people representing Mr. Depp or the people representing Ms. Heard?
I wouldn't know.
Okay. And then the video clip. You don't know who provided that, correct?
Correct. Not testifying to
I have
that.
no further.
All right. Redirect.
Mr. Tremaine, why did you contact me in relation to this case?
I saw that there was a discrepancy with like the video that was shown here and the video that I know I had received. So I had no interest in testifying. I had reached out simply to maybe try to help with the timeline of things or help with the case in any way, just by virtue of understanding the timeline of the stories that were published and kind of how that can be unclear. But I had no idea I'd be on the stand.
Nothing further. Thank you.
All right. So